What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be looking at the Corey Perry situation, and we're going to look at whether or not the Maple Leafs will be interested or if there is talk of mutual interest. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. Thank you so much for all the support lately, and there's tons more content coming, don't worry. I'm really working on this background. I have an Amazon order that I'm about to make. My wallet's about to hurt in a couple minutes because after this video, I'm making some upgrades to the set. I'm working on it. I know I've been saying it, but I'm working on it. 2024 Andrew Piluk Hockey is much different. Also, if you want to save 20% at Manscaped, use code APH20 for 20% off and free shipping. That's APH20 for 20% off and free shipping. Use it. I just trimmed the beard. It's nice. Everything that you can find on there, it works pretty well. I'm not going to lie. But Corey Perry. Now, this has been a very, very interesting point of conversation. Now, before people go crazy in the comments, you and myself both don't know what happened in the Corey Perry situation. The whole stuff with Bedard's mom and all that stuff like that was not true. It was just terrible that people made that up just so that way, you know, there would be clicks and, you know, people looking for a story even though it wasn't there. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean that he didn't do anything wrong because the Blackhawks terminated his contract. Now, one thing I do want to bring up to you guys is that Elliot Friedman said that if it was any other team in the league, he's not sure that this would have happened. There might have been a suspension. You know, there could have been a lighter penalty, but because the Blackhawks have been under fire for so long and all the different things that have gone on in their organization, they made this move to terminate Corey Perry's contract, and it probably was the right move for them because, look, they can't keep having these things happening in their organization and nothing comes about it. So, unfortunately, fortunately, this happened. Again, whoever was affected by this, hopefully it wasn't anything terrible, but it seems like this wasn't really a good thing that happened and that his conduct was unacceptable. Now, the league has said that Corey Perry is allowed to come back and play in the NHL, which surprised me a little bit. Apparently, there was a meeting with Gary Bettman, but I believe Corey Perry would have to find a team before March. Now, I'm almost positive he will. There's been a lot of people saying that, hey, potentially it's the Leafs, like Carlo Koliakovo saying that there's mutual interest. I will say there's been recent reports saying that that was not true, and that was just kind of pulled out of nowhere. Again, I don't want to go after Carlo Koliakovo because I do like the guy, but apparently that was not true at all, and that the Leafs and Perry maybe have mutual interest, but that isn't something that recently has happened. They have had mutual interest before, because when Wayne Simmons signed with the Leafs had a chance to sign Corey Perry. I love Wayne Simmons. I wish that they would have been able to sign both, but Corey Perry, in hindsight, probably would have been the better addition. But at the time, Wayne Simmons looked like he might have been the better fit for the Maple Leafs. Now, if we're talking about Perry, let's look at some information. So Luke Fox on Sportsnet here was talking about, you know, with Perry being cleared to return to the NHL, there's lots of buzz around the idea of him coming to the hockey mecca. That's a 2-hour drive east, leading that basically people think that Perry could be flirting with the Toronto Maple Leafs again and thinking about coming there. We talked about the Wayne Simmons stuff, but you know, he's a 38-year-old guy, but he still has that, you know, thrill to win and that role that he can play up and down in the lineup. And he's been a performer in the playoffs. He's performed pretty much everywhere. But again, it's about whether or not the Maple Leafs have cap space, whether or not they have the room to bring in a guy like Corey Perry. And that's something that we're about to look at in just a second here. But before we get into that, let's look at what Perry has been doing. So he's 38, like I mentioned before. Again, from Peterborough, it makes a ton of sense if he was going to come around here. But these are all of his old contracts. The guy's made a ton of money over the years. But his last deal with Chicago was $4 million. Of course, Chicago has all the money in the world because they need to hit the cap floor. But there's no way he's going to get anywhere close to this. Now, if I'm the Maple Leafs and you are thinking about Corey Perry, you have to get this guy on almost a minimum deal. But there's going to be teams that are going to be able to offer him maybe upwards to a couple $1 million. But if he truly wants to play in Toronto, he's going to have to take significantly less to play here. Now, we'll get to that in a second, but You can see over the years in the playoffs and in the regular season, he's always been a really talented player. Because of the fact that he's a pest. Man, back in the day, he was scoring 50 goals, 40 goals. Like, this guy was a bona fide goal scorer. But you can see he still puts up decent numbers. Like, he had 9 points in 16 games to start the year in Chicago this year. Like, that's pretty good on a really bad team. So the guy still plays really good hockey. He's able to put up some points. And I think a lot of teams will still be interested. I know there were some people saying maybe Florida would be a fit. Man, that team would just get even nastier if he was on that team. I really do not want to see Corey Perry play for the Florida Panthers. That's just dangerous for any other team around the league, because they'll just get even more chippy and more brutal. But if we're looking at the Leafs cap situation now, this is what it roughly looks like right now with sending down a couple guys to the minors. You have to remember that the Maple Leafs still have to activate Ryan Reeves back into this lineup. Now, mind you, that's not going to affect their cap, and the same thing goes for Joseph Woll. Now, what gets interesting is the fact that, you know, the Leafs have some decisions to make on their blue line, which means this little bit of extra cap space, if they use it on Corey Perry, they're going to have to bury Ryan Reeves' contract, which is possible, not all of it, but a lot of it, or try to trade him, which doesn't seem like that's going to happen. You might have to trade off Connor Timmins, but, you know, they're giving him a shot tonight. At the time I'm recording this, January 14th, they're playing the Red Wings. They're going to see if he can get in there. But they're going to have to make some tough decisions, because there's not a lot of guys here that have high salaries in the bottom six of their lineup that the Leafs can afford to trade right now. Now, clearly a guy like David Kampf, I like what he does, and I think he's a good player, but that $2.4 million has been a bit of a problem for a while now. If that number was 1.4, even like 1.8 or 1.9, I think it would look a lot better. But this is the guy that I would trade. I would bury Reeves' contract, and I would trade David Kampf, and then insert a guy like Corey Perry, and then make a move on the blue line, make a couple moves. Because, you know, unpopular opinion, but I think the Leafs are going to have to make a tough decision on Mark Giordano soon. They're going to have to make a tough choice on Connor Timmins, and they're going to have to make a tough choice on TJ Brody, which really hurts me to say, because, you know, he's been pretty good, but over his career, and, you know, for the Maple Leafs, he's been really good, but this year he's kind of slowed down a little bit. But the Maple Leafs getting Corey Perry would make them better, yes. And should we all know what happened? Yeah, I would love to know, because that'll dictate whether or not I would want a guy like him on my team. But if we're going just based off what the player does, Corey Perry has always been a pest. He can always chip in on some points, and he scares other rosters. He does. And if you're saying he doesn't, you're lying. The guy scares people, and the Maple Leafs need more of that. So if they can find a way to get him, that's fantastic. If they focus on fixing that blue line, that's even better. If they could do both, this Leaf team would be a lot better, because the way that they're playing and the amount of games that they're losing because they're up 3-0 or 3-1 and there's comebacks and they can't defend a lead, it's just the same old song and dance from years previous. So the Maple Leafs need to do something very soon, and if they don't, they're going to get caught being a wild card team and maybe matched up in a not good spot, and then they're going to have to really make some big decisions in the offseason. And this is all a domino effect. This trade deadline is the most important trade deadline that they've had in a really long time. And of course, we're still a little while away. We're not even at the All-Star break yet, but there is a lot of problems with this team. Goaltending, defense, and depth. They have a lot of issues. And at the beginning of the year, it looked much better than it does now. And the fact that they're slowly going into this mode where it's like win a couple games but then lose 5 or 6, you can't do that. The Leafs are 4-1-1 in their last 6 games, which is fantastic. But they haven't really looked that good even in those games. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. And the Leafs are supposed to be, with the way that they're structured and the way that they're built, a far better team. So let me know what you guys think about Corey Perry down below. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. Join the Andy Gang or the Squad, whatever. I use Andy Gang on my other channel, but the Squad. Make sure to use code APH20 at Manscaped for 20% off and free shipping. That's code APH20 for free shipping at Manscaped and 20% off. Make sure to use it. Like I'm telling you guys, I don't have much of a beard, but I've been trimming it up and trying to like make it look nice. It works. Like their stuff actually does work. I wouldn't promote it if it didn't, like genuinely. So I love you guys, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Peace.